Tonight, Rowan Ramsey defends his party's stance on the Indigenous Voice to Parliament referendum. And footy's back in Broken Hill. Sparks fly at the annual Lightning Cup ahead of the new season launch.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. First tonight, the federal Liberals are reeling from the weekend's by-election loss in Victoria as member for Grey, Rowan Ramsey, defends his party's lack of decision on the Voice to Parliament referendum. It comes as Labor increases in popularity, while one of the most prominent Indigenous rights campaigners has passed away. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers are warned that the following story may contain images and voices of deceased persons.
The coalition was in Port Augusta, with Shadow Minister Kevin Hogan defending the Federal Nationals' position to oppose the upcoming federal voice to Parliament.
There's real constitutional questions to be asked about it, so if the voice is recognised within the Constitution, we believe there will be High Court challenges almost immediately on the power of the voice relative to the federal executive of the government.
His Liberal colleague Rowan Ramsey saying his party needs more time.
Largely we haven't reached a decision because we haven't known what this legislation was going to look like. Now, it was tabled in the House yesterday and we will have a good look at that, and I should imagine the next time we meet, which is going to be budget week, it will be considered and we'll come up with some kind of position out of the Liberal Party in that stage.
That's despite the Uluru Statement and co-design discussions being held by the previous coalition government. And time is running out in the wake of Labor's surprise win at the Aston by-election on the weekend.
We've had a genuine approach, but we've got questions that are legitimately being asked, and if the Prime Minister can't answer them, then Australians, if they have a hesitation, won't support it in the absence of an understanding of what they're voting for.
To make matters worse for the coalition, the latest opinion poll shows its support plummeting. On primary vote, the coalition slumped to just 33% of the vote. Labor is up to 38%, the Greens stable on 10%, and One Nation at 8%. That translates into a two-party preferred wipeout, with Labor up to 55% of the vote to the coalition's 45%, down 1%. As to who is the preferred Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese is a staggering 32 points ahead of Peter Dutton. Meanwhile, renowned Aboriginal lands right campaigner Yunupingu died today. He was one of the main co-designers of The Voice and held enormous political sway on both sides of politics. The 74-year-old, who was named Australian of the Year in 1978 and became a member of the Order of Australia in 1985, has been battling poor health, but has been remembered for his grace, authority and tireless campaigning. Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Golf News.
With Easter just around the corner, many of us are starting to plan our holiday meals. The Spencer Golf's prawn industry has you sorted, reeling in a massive catch last week. Alison Hall has more.
The Spencer Gulf prawn fishery have been scouring the pristine waters between the Eyre Peninsula and the York Peninsula for 55 years. Their fleet of 39 vessels recently returned from an 8-night fishing venture with a fresh catch of Western King prawns. Back in the day, the fishery operated year-round, but now fishing has been refined to 50 nights a year during a 6-month window for sustainability and productivity. This method is proving successful, with the most recent trip catching above the historical average at approximately 270 tonnes, just in time for Easter.
Obviously the demand goes up at Easter time because traditionally Easter and Christmas is a celebratory time, but we are actually trying to encourage people to buy prawns all year round these days and have them on their tables for everyday meals. Once
the prawns leave Port Lincoln's wharf, they're delivered all over Australia. The fishery encourages everyone to buy local this year by keeping an eye out for Spencer Gulf King prawns at your local supermarket. The prawns are snap frozen on board the vessels within hours of being caught, locking in their flavour and freshness. The next fishing trip will be later this month. Alison Hall, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Well, footy is back in Broken Hill with the annual Lightning Cup taking place over the weekend. The round-robin tournament, a good way for players to dust off the cobwebs before the new season starts.
It was a cracking day for footy. as players chuck the boots on to have a run around and win some silverware while they're at it. After wins in their first game, Central played North in the women's final, with the Magpies coming out on top.
Yeah, I think we're feeling pretty pumped for the season. At training, it's good vibes. We're working well together as a team. We're really gelling together, and all our positions, we've pretty much cemented all our positions and we know how each other play.
Last year, Central were on the wrong end of the scoreboard, so that made this year's victory even sweeter.
It's really good to win the cup. We're sort of down a few numbers this year. We've lost a few players to other clubs. South have picked up a lot of girls, so it was really good to come out and get a win against them, especially considering they had 2 different benches for each game.
In the men's, South once again proved their dominance over the competition, beating North in the final. It was the Kangaroos' 13th straight Lightning Cup.
A good way to start the season, obviously, the pre-season cup. Our boys, we actually enjoy playing them. We use it as part of our pre-season program, so it's great to come away with a couple of wins today.
While they still have their core group of players, the Kangaroos were able to blood some young players during the pre-season comp.
I mean, it comes down to our core bunch of guys. You know, we've had a lot of guys playing together for 10 to 12 years now, so that's really starting to show. An introduction of some young boys that come out today in Marcus Purcell and Bryce Langdon, Joel Van Kemenade. I thought they stood up today very well. They're starting to mature and grow up a bit.
Round 1 kicks off on April 25. Joshua Mercer, 7. Spencer Golf News.
Still to come tonight, upgrades urgently needed at the Viterra site in Butte as council calls for something to be done. And out with the old and in with the new, why the Eyre Peninsula is embracing its wild side. Welcome back. Barunga West Council is raising concerns over Viterra's Butte facility as the company hasn't undertaken repairs on the steel bins that are crucial for long-term grain storage. With record high costs of feed, fertiliser and pesticides, it's a resource farmers can't afford to lose.
After a record harvest, Barunga West Council hope things keep looking up for local farmers.
We were very concerned. We actually thought Viterra were going to shut down the Butte silos, and that facility services all of the farmers around Butte area which have had a bumper year.
Council wrote to the company early March, expressing their concern, and have now received an answer they're happy to share.
But we were really, really pleased to hear that that's not the case. It's just a rumour, and they're going to maintain the site, and it's got a future for our region, so that's fantastic news.
Viterra replied, saying this harvest broke the site's daily receival record on the 24th and 25th of November, and that the company will continue to provide customers with reliability and long-term sustainability and infrastructure.
Means our farmers don't have to pay a ridiculous amount of money in petrol prices and freight costs. So it does make a difference to each of those farmers in Butte to be able to store their wheat at that facility.
Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Known as the seafood frontier for its diverse seafood industry, the Eyre Peninsula is getting a revamp that will showcase its wild side. Alison Hall explains.
Bringing all Eyre Peninsula communities together under one slogan. The wild side is the future of the EP.
Imagine if I got off on the plane yesterday at Lincoln and someone said, "Welcome to the wild side, mate." Like, that is a moment that you can own. That is something that this region has that no other region in Australia can lay claim to.
I love it. I think the wild side and looking at Eyre, South Oz, gives a real opportunity to unify the region.
While the Seafood Frontier did celebrate what was unique about the region, it's not something that the entire region could feel connected with and could get behind. There was a real disconnect with some of the inland communities, for example.
This change has been a long time coming.
The Seafood Frontier was developed in 2006, so it's been 17 years. It was developed as a food brand.
The slogan was later adopted for tourism in 2013 and has been used since then.
We really wanted to find a brand that could celebrate what was unique about the Eyre Peninsula experience, but also create, a shared identity for the region that the whole region could get behind and feel proud of.
The new brand isn't targeted towards any particular demographic, but towards a mindset.
It's going to be about brand recognition moving forward to make sure that people resonate with the brand long term, but it's also about making sure that we're attracting the right kind of visitor to the region.
It's not about going wild, it's about connecting to nature and taking the time here.
Welcome to the wild side. Alison Hall, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us. After the break, tons of locally sourced sand to be dumped along Port Broughton seawall, just in time for the Easter break. And driving towards change in regional and remote areas. Broken Hill locals put electric vehicles to the test. Welcome back. Barunga West Council is putting its federal government grant money to good use, bolstering the volume of sand along the coastline to prevent any further erosion. The local council receiving close to $360,000 to upgrade the popular area.
The way a beach should look. Port Broughton Beach just received 500 cubic metres of locally sourced sand.
So this is part of the sand replenishment program, which is a natural program to eradicate erosion along our coastline in Port Broughton.
The most recent top-up took place at the seawall at West Terrace and around the historic Port Broughton jetty. This will provide a buffer of sand to protect the area from future erosion.
People can actually go down on our beach and build a sandcastle. It's quite amazing, and it was $30,000 worth of sand that was made available through a federal grant. So we're very lucky. Ratepayers haven't paid for this. It's a grant.
John Lewis Drive is the next location set to receive a facelift.
So it's an ongoing program. It's over 5 years, and this is just the second stage. So watch this space.
Next time you're walking along Port Broughton shores, take a look for yourself. Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The groundbreaking ceremony of the Barker Cultural Centre in Wilcannia has been pushed back. The ceremony was due to take place tomorrow, along with the launch of the Heritage Trail app. While the app launch will still go ahead, a new date for the sod turning is yet to be decided upon after delays in the tendering process. No further comment has been given as the matter relates to commercial in confidence issues. People can get in contact with the Central Darling Shire Council if they require further information. Broken Hill residents have hopped behind the wheels of some electric vehicles as part of NRMA's Drive Day. They also got the chance to ask any questions, especially if they were sitting on the fence about buying one.
These drive days are aimed at making the transition to electric vehicles simple, while also supporting the state government's EV strategy and goal of reaching net zero emissions.
We wanted to bring our Drive Day program out to Broken Hill. We're travelling right around the state to give people the opportunity to get behind the wheel of an electric vehicle, to talk to experts, to really find out if it's something that they can purchase as their next car if it's of interest.
The program has covered places such as the Illawarra and the Riverina. Broken Hill is the only place in the far west so far, but that may change down the road.
No, we've been to other locations, so we've got a full program of works. We're going to places outside of Sydney, such as Newcastle, Wollongong, Armidale, Wagga Wagga, Broken Hill. We're going down to Canberra, and we'll continue to add others as the program evolves.
People's response to the vehicles has been mostly positive, with some heading out to buy after having a test drive.
A lot of it is unknown, and this is really new technology. And so it's about giving people the opportunity to learn if it's something that they could live with, if it suits their personal needs. But certainly there's a lot of interest, and it just grows exponentially every year.
While the online bookings for the event weren't through the roof, there were quite a number of walk-ins.
We've had a lot more walk-ins than we would ordinarily have at some of the Sydney locations. And so we've delivered over 100 drives here today, which is great given the location.
Keep an eye on the NRMA website to find out where and when drive days are happening. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Still ahead in tonight's bulletin, dozens of disposals and one through the polls. Port Augusta's Connor Rosie impresses at the Showdown despite his team's loss. And a cold morning turned into a warm day. We'll have your local weather forecast with Alex Sykes. Welcome back. The Adelaide Showdown certainly lived up to its name on the weekend as the Crows and Power thrashed it out on the field. In the end, it was the Crows who flew on high, despite a few fumbles by Broken Hill's Tex Walker and an impressive goal by Port Augusta product Connor Rosie.
In front of a packed crowd of over 50,000 people, one of footy's greatest rivalries went to new heights. The first quarter was a tight affair until Port Augusta's Connor Rosie butchered the spectacular goal in the second, as well as make 28 disposals.
You know it's coming, Glenn. Yeah, and Rosie slams that one through. That was against the grain.
Power's charge was enough for the Crows to get their act together in the final quarter. Broken Hill's Tex Walker scored just one behind, despite plenty of close contact with the ball. But his squad pulled off an impressive fourth quarter, thanks to guys like Isaac Rankin and Riley Tilthorpe. The final score, Port 13-8 for 86 to the Crows 18-9 117, a win by 31 points.
Really positive for us. It's what we've been working on as a group, is to put together, a full game. I'd say we probably struggled early in that first quarter, but we were able to right the ship.
The Crows celebrated long into the night, but over at Port, the mood was sombre.
Yeah, extremely disappointing loss. I suppose we were in it for most of the game and then just weren't able to hang in for long enough and unfortunately went down. So, yeah, as I said, extremely disappointing and, devastated.
You can't defend it because at the end of the day we had most things where we wanted them. It was our game, our home, in a pretty good game of football for three quarters and 10 minutes.
Meanwhile, Connor Rosie and Ben Keys were fined $1,500 each after an early guilty plea for careless contact with an umpire, down from initial fines of $2,500. And questions remained over Taylor Walker's poor performance during the Showdown. Both teams will have plenty of time to reflect on the weekend, as the next Showdown is on July 23rd. Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Golf News.
It's time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Alex Sykes. Alex, it was a bit of a chilly night, but it warmed up to be a beautiful day.
It sure did, Maddie. For example, Snowtown recorded an overnight low of 4.5 degrees at 6:30 this morning, but it felt closer to 2 degrees. Snowtown eventually warming up to 26 degrees by mid-afternoon. In Whyalla this morning, it was 7.8 degrees, warming up to 26 after midday. Broken Hill reached 24 after recording 6 degrees at 3 a.m, 29 the top in Woodner. Looking more broadly at today's weather map now, 30 was the warmest it got to today up in Cooper Pedy, 23 the coolest, that was in Port Lincoln, 27 degrees in Port Pirie. Taking a look at the satellite image now, a high pressure system over the Tasman Sea extends a ridge over South Australian waters. This ridge will weaken as it heads towards New Zealand. Meanwhile, a low pressure system will develop south of the Bight on Wednesday, then move southeastwards with an associated cold front over the south on Thursday. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. East to northeasterly winds 10 to 15 knots, becoming variable about 10 knots before tending easterly 10 to 15 knots in the early afternoon, seas below 1 metre, and south to southwesterly swell around 1 metre. Looking at tomorrow's temperatures now, mostly sunny and set to reach a high of 27 degrees in Port Lincoln, down to 15 tonight. Partly cloudy and 29 on the way for Cleve, Woodner warm and set to reach a high of 32 degrees on Tuesday. Sunny in Whyalla tomorrow, heading for a high of 28 degrees there. Even warmer in Port Augusta, 30 there. Kadina not far behind with 28 degrees. The mercury is set to peak at 30 degrees in Port Pirie tomorrow, down to 12 overnight. Mostly sunny, top of 27 in Clare. Broken Hill, sunny, top of 27 as well, down to single digits tonight. Taking a look further through the week now, starting with Wednesday's weather, and it's a bit of a mixed bag. Possible showers in Port Lincoln, Woodner and Cooper Pedy, partly cloudy, top of 31 in Port Augusta and Port Pirie, 29 degrees everywhere else. Moving on to Thursday's outlook now, and we can expect rain just about everywhere. Also the chance of thunderstorms as well. Muggy in Broken Hill, possible showers and 30 degrees, 28 in Whyalla and Port Pirie. Showers easing around Port Lincoln, 24 degrees. And finally, taking our first look at how Friday is looking. At first glance, it won't be quite as warm as early in the week, but the rain is still hanging around. 22 degrees in Port Lincoln, Kadina and Woodner. Medium chance of showers in Whyalla on Friday, particularly in the evening. 24 degrees during the day, 24 in Port Pirie as well, partly cloudy, and 25 in Port Augusta, 26 in Broken Hill. And that's all the weather from me for tonight. I'll see you a little later with an update. It's back to you, Maddie.
Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Monday. I'm Madeline Kerr. From all of us here, thanks for joining us. I'll have updates a little later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.